in this video we're going to discuss the idea of flux of a vector field over a curve. And let's first start with our two known vector fields, f of xy equals xy, the radial field, and g of xy equals negative yx, the rotational field. And let's also suppose that we have a unit circle that passes through each of the fields. So in the first image we have our vector field xy, which is the radial field, and the unit circle. And in the second image we have a rotational field along with the unit circle. So we saw that flow measured how well our vector field aligned with the curve, and we measured that by looking at the tangential component of the vector field along the curve. With flux, we're going to measure the contribution of the field that's normal to the curve. So I'm going to write that down, and then we'll talk about both fields. So flux will measure the contribution of each field that is normal to the curve. That means that we're really measuring how much is flowing out of the curve or into the curve. So in the radial field, we see that our vectors are normal, always normal to the unit circle. And so we should expect that we have a lot of flux because we're thinking of a lot of part of the vector field is aligned with the normal at each point. So we have an outflow of the vector field. We could also have an inward flow, but the radial field flows outward. But the rotational field, on the other hand, there are no components of the rotational field that are normal to our curve. Our rotational field has a high flow, but zero flux, because there's no outward flow normal to the curve. So flux measures the contribution normal to the curve of the vector field. So imagine that the curve is some kind of net, and we're dealing with a velocity field. We want to know how much water will flow across the net. If we have the rotational field, no water is going to flow across the net. It's always flowing in the direction of the curve. Whereas the flux, if we're thinking of this as the velocity of water, then water's always flowing out of this field. So the question is, how are we going to measure this? So let's define how we're going to think about this, and then we will develop a formula to calculate the flux of a field over a curve. So let's suppose that we have a continuous vector field. So let's let f of xy be a continuous vector field composed of, let's say, two functions, f of xy and little g of xy, and this is continuous. And we also have a smooth curve that's parametrized in the counterclockwise direction. We'll talk about that in a moment. So smooth curve C that does not intersect itself, so this is important. I'll talk about that in a moment too. And N is going to be our outward normal. We know that the dot product tells us how much two vectors are aligned with each other. So we're going to define flux as the integral of over the curve of our vector field dotted with the normal. So we're measuring how much is the vector field aligned with the normal, and we're measuring that if our curve is parametrized with respect to arc length. And typically we talk about flux over a closed curve. So I'm going to put a little closed circle here to say this is over a closed curve, and that's our definition of flux. So a couple of notes. Our first note is, what do I mean by a curve that does not intersect itself? So you notice that that is one of the premises of this definition. Our curve C does not intersect itself, because it's very difficult to measure what an outward normal is when a curve intersects itself. And we call this property of a curve simple. So we're thinking of the curve as a simple curve. For example, a curve like this that's parametrized in some direction is simple, but a curve like this is not simple. And the reason for picking a curve that is simple, that does not intersect itself, is because if we have a lot of intersections of a curve with itself, then in various places it's very difficult to know what is this outward normal. So one of our premises of this definition is that we're dealing with simple curves. Now let's expand a little bit on this, on how do we find this normal. So finding the normal is something that we're going to have to work on in order to be able to evaluate these vector line integrals. And we want specifically to find the outward normal n. And so one way that we have for finding normal vectors is using cross products. So we're going to think about, how do we use a cross product when we have a vector field in a curve that's in R2? Because cross products were defined for vectors in R3. And so we can kind of pretend that we have vectors in R3. So let's take a look at, let me set up here a 3D coordinate system. Oops. And let's also suppose that our curve is in R2, as is our vector field. So flux is defined over a curve to be in R2. All right, so let's suppose that we've got some curve that's parametrized in the counterclockwise direction in R2. And we want to find the outward flowing normal. So a normal that points outward. So let's pick a point here on the curve and notice that the tangent vector, the unit tangent vector, points in the direction of the curve. So there's our unit tangent vector. And we want to find the normal to that vector. And again, this is all on the XY plane. You can't tell, but that's on the XY plane. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to say, all right, if we're on the XY plane, right, and I have a curve that's parametrized in a counterclockwise direction, there's our tangent vector. I want to find this normal on the XY plane. We're going to use a vector that's perpendicular to both, which is going to be the vector k hat. K hat is in R3, right? K hat is defined as our vector 0, 0, 1. And the way that we can figure out this normal is by finding the cross product between our tangent vector on the xy plane with k hat. That's going to give us the normal vector that we're looking for. And it will be the outward going normal vector, because if we use the right hand rule, then if you line up your right side palm of your hand and move it towards k, you will see that the vector n will point outward on the curve, as long as our curve is parametrized counterclockwise. So how do we do this? Well, our vector t is the unit tangent vector. And so if our, let me actually define r first. If our curve is parametrized with respect to t, let's suppose for now, and we have x of t, y of t, then we know that our unit tangent vector is going to be x prime of t, y prime of t, divided by the magnitude of the derivative. So I'm going to divide this by magnitude of r prime of t, because t is a unit vector. And k is the vector 0, 0, 1 that points along the positive z-axis. So if we create the cross product of t crossed with k hat, then I'm going to factor out the magnitude of t outside of this cross product. And we're going to set this up as I, j, k. The second row is going to be my tangent vector, the components of the tangent. So x prime of t, y prime of t, with the k component, the third component, equal to 0 because t is on the xy plane, and k is the vector 0, 0, 1. And when we find this cross product, we have 1 over magnitude of r prime of t times the vector I gets multiplied by y prime of t minus j hat gets multiplied by x prime of t, and k hat we get 0, which is great because we want our normal to be on the xy plane, so that makes sense that that should be. And so we have our normal vector is going to be 1 over the magnitude of r prime of t times the vector y prime of t negative x prime of t. So now we can write our flux as follows. So the flux now can be calculated in terms of t being an arbitrary parameter, where let's suppose that t is between two values, a and b. And we've got the dot product of our vector f dotted with our normal vector, which is y prime of t, negative x prime of t, over the magnitude of r prime of t. And we had originally defined this multiplied by the arc length differential, which is the same as magnitude of r prime of t dt. And we can simplify this a bit because you can see that the magnitude of r primes cancel out. And so we have defined flux over a curve to be integral from a to b of our vector field evaluated at each point on the curve, dotted with our normal vector y prime of t, negative x prime of t dt. And there are different forms that we can use for flux, but this is our introductory video, so this is a form that we can use and apply to find the flux. But we can also write this in different forms. We'll talk in the next video about the differential form of flux. But recall that now, just as a summary, flux measures how aligned our vector field is with the normal vectors along our curve.